FORA.tv. The world is thinking.
I don't perceive my role as historian to sort of be to sit in judgment or be the hangman of history. But if I do have a critical observation in the book, it's this tendency of Americans going back to the 18th century to not look at the Middle East and see the Middle East. They look at the Middle East and they see sort of a tarnished and rather cracked reflection of the United States. And they conclude that with just a little bit more effort, a little bit more elbow grease, they can fix this mirror of the Middle East and make it look like the United States. This sounds familiar to just about anybody here. And it didn't begin with George Bush. It goes way, way back. You'll see the mirror images throughout about 230 years of American Middle East involvement there. And it has been, needless to say, a source of great disappointment and pitfalls in America's involvement in the Middle East. Referring to the quote, one of my favorite quotes in the book from George McClellan, the less than successful Civil War general, but a very celebrated Middle East traveler who went to the region in 1872, wrote a series of articles for Scribner magazines, and among his observations, just incredible, very prescient, insightful observations, is that as long as Americans persist in looking at the Middle East as an extension of the United States and not recognizing that this area has its distinct cultures and civilizations and appreciating those civilizations for what they are, that Americans will be doomed to misunderstand this region. Extraordinary thing, extraordinary line written in 1872. The book also deals at length with American perceptions of Islam, and going back into colonial times, and for want of, again, using the term very historically, for what I would call Islam bashing among the founders of this country and their descendants. You find Cotton Mather, Increase Mather, Jonathan Edwards giving these long sermons against Islam. And you find John Quincy Adams in the 1820s writing a 40-page essay against Islam. I doubt he had ever met a Muslim, honestly. Why were they so obsessed with Islam? And the reason one must conclude, this is part of the legacy of the Crusades that is brought with the Puritans from Europe. There was an element of fear. The flip side of the erotic, romantic notion of the Middle East is the notion of the Middle East being a hostile area. You see Hollywood grappling with that all the time, too. They're not quite sure whether the Middle East is a romantic place or a very, very dangerous place, or both. And you find a tremendous amount of curiosity about the Islamic Middle East. The first American short story written by two classmates of James Madison at Princeton is called Father Bobo's Pilgrimage to Mecca. It's prescient in the book, and it really displays a tremendous amount of familiarity as well as some interesting misconceptions about Islam in the Middle East. Recently there was a headline in this country about the first American Muslim congressman who swore in to Congress on a Quran found in Thomas Jefferson's library. Now, why was it in Thomas Jefferson's library? Because he was interested in Islam, because he was at war with Islam, but more than that, he had an intellectual interest and perhaps even a faith-guided interest. If you open to the introduction of that book, it was translated by an English lawyer named George Sales in 1734. The introduction says right up front, I am translating the Quran so Protestants will better know their enemy and better be able to defeat their enemy. I don't know whether anybody looked into this Quran before they swore on it, but that's what it says right in the introduction.